Welcome to Real Conversations, exploring the meaning behind the music. Hi, I'm Reverend Jeannie Kataoka.
And I'm Al Yankee. Join with us for a deep dive into the inspiration and meaning behind the music of New Thought, as important New Thought artists share the story of their creative process and their spiritual journey.
Real Conversations is a rare opportunity to take a look behind the curtain to discover the connections between the stories, the music, the artists, and you. So let's dive right in to Real Conversations, exploring the meaning behind the music. Hi, welcome to Real Conversations. I'm Jeannie Kataoka, and I'm here with my partner, Al Yankee. And we're here to interview StoweGoode.
First, a short introduction for those who don't already know who StoweGoode is, who you ladies are. Based in Nashville, we have with us today two outstandingly multi-talented New Thought divas, Stowe Dailey and Karen Taylor Good. Combining forces, obviously, they are StoweGoode. So a little bit about them. Stowe Dailey is a singer-songwriter, best-selling author, and recent cancer survivor. She co-wrote the hit song Long Time Comin' for the group Shenandoah. Her album Angel Chants was the soundtrack for Angel Stories on the Learning Channel. She's the co-author of 5 books, including Flying High, which was featured at the I Can Do It conference in Toronto. Good morning, Stowe.
Good morning. It's good to be here today.
Excellent, excellent. And along with you is Karen Taylor Good. She's the Grammy-nominated songwriter of How Can I Help You Say Goodbye? And other radio hits by Patti Loveless, Al Jarreau, and Melissa Manchester. She's recorded albums and movie soundtracks with Willie Nelson, Al Green, and Dolly Parton. Her songs have been used for organizations including Child Help USA and the National Hospice Foundation. She's also the author of the book and accompanying CD On Angel's Wings. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
Excellent, excellent. So that we can tell you apart, as you pointed out earlier, Stowe, would you please recite the Gettysburg Address?
Oh, God.
No, that's not fair.
That's not fair.
But as Karen pointed out, you're the one with the more pronounced Southern accent. Is that fair?
Well, that's right.
Nice. Nice. Well, to get things started here a little bit.
Mountain accent.
Oh, all right. All right. Could I ask you two ladies for those who are not as familiar with you, to tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and how you came together?
Sure. So this is Karen, and I will start. So back in the early 90s, were you guys born then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. So back in the early 90s, Stowe and I were each separately songwriters. We were staff writers for 2 different publishing companies in Nashville. So I was writing for Warner Chappell Music, and Stowe was down the street writing for BMG. And at the time, Stowe had a hit song on the radio with the group Shenandoah, and I had a hit song on the radio with Patti Loveless. So our publishers put us together, thinking, oh, surely these 2 ladies are going to write a big hit country song for Reba McEntire or somebody like that. Now, Stowe, did that happen?
I don't think so. Not to my recollection.
No.
We got together. We had, it can only be described as hilarious. I think Karen had this idea for a song title, and we wrote a song called Honey, I Want Your Money. It was absolutely never recorded by anyone but us. And it was a good time, but an interesting start to our relationship.
Right. And then, we did a couple writers' nights together, and then literally we didn't see each other for the next 16 years.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It wasn't our time yet.
It wasn't until fate brought us back together. I was actually doing an opening set for the Judds at a fundraiser here in Nashville. And I was freaking out because I had just learned some troubling news. The whole thing was a mess. I didn't want to be there. I was not appreciating all the egos that were on the stage, you know, and I'm not just talking about the Judds themselves. Mainly it was, you know, their band and all the other musicians and everybody. Now, I have never had an ego problem. But still, it was just, I wanted to cry. Okay, this is right after the engineer said, Karen, I just have to tell you that this is a dinner show and people will be talking all during your set. And so no one will hear you, but I'll do the best that I can. That's when I wanted to cry and leave. And all of a sudden, in walks this person, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Stowe Dailey. And it was. And I'm going like, oh, I know I haven't seen you in 16 years, but this is so terrible. This is about to happen. And what am I going to do? And she grabbed my hand and she said, come on, we're going to go say a prayer. And she takes me back into this back room. And she says, she holds my hand and she says the most beautiful, calming prayer. And then I went up there and I'm telling you, you could have heard a pin drop. Now, there is no way to explain that other than her marvelous prayer and her wonderful connection. Okay, it was a good set too, I will say.
And your incredible talent.
Well, add all that together, and then all of a sudden it was, you know what? We need to get together again and possibly write something with a little more substance than, honey, I want your money.
And we did. It was magic. Absolute magic. And I remember saying to her after we wrote our first song, I said, if we can get comfortable with one another, I just think there's like no end to the songs that we could write. And there was never an intention that we would become a duo. I don't know what our intention was, but we just went along for about a year and we just kept writing song after song. And it was so amazing. And one day my dear husband was talking to us and he's the one who suggested, why don't you all become a duo? And it was like, wow, that's scary.
It was.
And exciting. And so we did.
We did.
Nice.
And it's become, she is very much a part of my family. My husband calls her wife number 2.
Oh,
Yeah, she's my sister from another mister.
There you go.
I've used that phrase about a friend.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into some music. And I have to issue a disclaimer here right at the top that an important consideration for the songs that I chose is that many of your songs, I mean, you're a couple of lovely ladies, and many of your songs are written from that viewpoint. Only makes sense.
Mhm.
And maybe even for other women as the target audience. So as the person here who's the most estrogen deficient, I'm going to pass on all of those songs. I mean, Jeannie's far more qualified than I to talk about any of those. The good news for me is that you've got plenty of material to choose from.
Yes.
And I will say it was really hard to choose. We each chose one song from each album and then an extra. And I'd gone through the list and I was making little notes and I went this one and this one and this one and this one. I'm like, no, can't do that. So it was really hard. In fact, I sent an email to Al saying, hard to choose.
As the subject line, that's right.
Wow,
Yeah.
we can't wait to see what you chose.
Well, I hope we surprise
Okay,
you.
let's go.
So we're going to go more or less in chronological order. So this is our first choice is from Love Lives On, your album that came out, I believe, 2013. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the song that I chose is From Here to There.
Oh, wow.
So let's give that a listen. Here we go. StoweGoode, From Here to There.
It feels like there's a chasm a giant gaping hole between all those happy people and me and my wounded soul. You know it don't seem right, God, it's just not fair. So tell me now, tell me how to get from here to there. They tell me life's a journey, take it one day at a time. They say I'll get past the pain, just change my thoughts and change my mind. Well, you know it sounds like heaven. I'd love to go, I swear. So tell me now, tell me how to get from here to there. Darkness is darkest before dawn, they say. So it can't be long till I see the light of day. I know it won't be easy. It's gonna take a lot of prayer till I can say I found a way to get from here to there.
Wow, that's a beautiful song for anybody who's ever felt separated and on their own. I do like, in fact, I love that it explores that emotional place of separateness and aloneness without actually answering the question that it poses. How do we get from that place of loneliness to something better?
Well,
Can you tell us anything about this song?
well, I'm delighted that you chose it. That's one thing. Stowe, do you remember how it came to be?
Well, I do. We had been asked, so we were a fairly new duo, and we had done maybe 1 or 2 retreats, and someone in Florida had asked us to facilitate a workshop on grief. And we looked at our StoweGoode catalog, which was small then, and we didn't have a lot of songs, or maybe any, on grief. What I recall about this is that we had a timeline. We had a deadline, I should say.
Yeah.
And I don't play piano really, but I was noodling on piano, and I know it got started like that. And then Karen was out of town, but as soon as she got home, she jumped in there and fixed everything. And I always like what you say about this song, Karen, because I know this was your intention, that it's not a quick fix kind of song. You want to elaborate on that?
Well, I do love that there's no, one of the things I think that is a trap for a lot of us New Thought writers is that a lot of us feel like, oh, well, if we're New Thought writers and our music is shared in some houses of worship, then everything has to be tra la la, it's all fine, it's all good. And indeed, I mean, come on, life is difficult. And so, yeah, I'm very pleased that we wrote it from that space. I'm looking at the lyrics here, they tell me life's a journey, take it one day at a time. They say I'll get past the pain, just change my thoughts and change my mind. A lot of times when you hear that and you're in the middle of this deep, dark place, it's like you just want to say, shut up.
Mhm.
I just need to. So yeah, we wanted to give people a safe place to sit in this song and feel their feelings and feel the grief and know that it's okay. It does say, I know it won't be easy. It's going to take a lot of prayer till I can say I found a way to get from here to there. So
Yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Yes. The song I picked from this album is Just Say Yes. And I think I picked that because I thought, as Karen was saying, it was just going to be the usual, change your thinking, change your life kind of thing, but it wasn't. So can you talk to us about that?
You want to start, Stowe?
I can't remember why we wrote this song.
Okay, I can't quite remember either, but I do know, I know that some of the inspiration for it came from way back when I wrote How Can I Help You Say Goodbye? You remember that story, Stowe?
Yes.
Yeah, and so long story short, I had, and maybe a little longer, I had given up a very lucrative jingle singing career, half in Nashville, half in Chicago, because I kept going to this New Thought church where they said, follow your bliss and the money will come. And so my bliss was to be a songwriter. And so eventually I took that giant leap and left that career because I'm going to be in Nashville full time and I'm going to be a songwriter. What I didn't realize was, how do you get a songwriter's attention in Nashville? A waiter.
Exactly.
Yes, I didn't realize that everybody in Nashville was a songwriter. So anyhow, I was very depressed. A year goes by and I was this close to bankruptcy. And the alarm went off on Sunday morning and I was supposed to go to Center for Spiritual Living and hear Reverend Mitch, who's a fabulous speaker. But I just turned it off and I said, I'm not going. This is all a bunch of crud and it doesn't work and it's stupid. But I heard this little voice. What did the little voice say, Stowe?
Go to church.
Yes. It did. And I put pillows over my head and I said, I'm not going. And then it got louder and it said,
go to church.
And I said, I'm Jewish. I shouldn't be going to church anyway. I tried everything I could, but pretty soon I had no choice. I had to go to church and I wasn't happy about it. And there's Reverend Mitch giving this fabulous talk. And again, I just was mesmerized. And at the end, he said, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge everybody here. Will you take a pledge that for the next week, 7 short days, you will say yes to life as often as you can? And I was into it. And I raised my hand and I took the pledge. And right after that, this woman came up to me and she said, Karen, you're a songwriter. Yes. Well, my friend is an actor from LA and he's a new songwriter and he's coming to town. Would you write with him? Oh my. And that little committee that lives up in my head went, no, I don't want to write with this guy. He's not a real songwriter yet. And he's an actor from LA and he's probably got this huge ego. No. But I had just taken the pledge. So I was bummed. I was mad. I said, yes. This guy comes over. We end up writing my Grammy-nominated song, How Can I Help You Say Goodbye, which was his title. And yeah, he was a nice guy. So anyway, I'm so sorry. I talk too much and I've had a lot of coffee. But I'm going to shut up really soon and let Stowe talk. But I do know we thought that when we do our retreats,
Yeah.
the part about being able to allow people to take that pledge and follow it for a week and see what magic happens, because it brought so much magic into my life. Isn't that why we wrote this song?
Yes. As you talked, I remembered that we were inspired by your story, and we had a retreat coming up. And I think it was maybe our very first retreat. And we wanted to have a song where we could have the audience stand up and say yes. And they did. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And
Well,
how it got to be so slapstick. Well, that's just.
Well, when you do it live, do you extend that gospel section where it's just say yes, just say? Do you let it go on and on so people can?
No, we
participate?
followed. We have the track from the record.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of nailed down then.
Yeah.
And speaking of the record, Jeannie.
Maybe we should play it, huh?
yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear what happens when Karen says yes. So Just Say Yes by StoweGoode.
It's just so easy to say no. First word I learned so long ago. Just kind of rolls right off the tongue. Yeah, it does. It even sounds good when it's sung. No, 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 no. No, I'm busy. Not today. No, sir, no thanks, no way, Jose. No, I'm too young or old for that. Hey, how come I got that line? No, I'm too skinny or too fat. Hey, and that one too. But all these no's are getting old. They're bringing down my heart and soul. To change is simple, so I've heard. I think I'll try a different word. Well, what you gonna try? Oh gosh, let's see if it's not no. Just say yes. 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 Then again, this could be hard. And saying no, so avant-garde. It keeps me safe and in the house. I get to stay here on my couch. I love my blue suede couch. Okay, I know that's pretty lame. And negativity's to blame. So doctor, help me, if you please. I need a no-ectomy. Ooh, that sounds like it's gonna hurt. Just say yes. 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 Just
it made me laugh. That's why we had to do it.
Yeah, it's so fun.
It makes me laugh too.
So one thing that I couldn't help but notice, and I noticed it immediately, was the really high production values you guys have on your recordings. You know, and I know you've heard a lot of other New Thought artists, and the production values a lot of times. I mean, the talent is always there, and the consciousness is always there, but the production values not always there. And you know, that's just because people might not have the resources, either the monetary resources or just the availability of talent. Have you guys always had that? As you know, because I haven't gone back and listened to everything you guys have ever done, so forgive me for that. But
Yeah, everything we've done was produced by a fabulous player and producer named Brendan Harkin. And Brendan put together some wonderful players for us, and you know, just kind of oversaw everything. And you know, and we have a lot of input into what happens too. So yeah, it's been a very good partnership. He's actually moved now to Florida, so I don't know what we'll do going forward, but it's been wonderful to have him produce.
Well, long distance productions aren't that unusual these days.
Right.
Exactly.
I think he's out of the biz though.
Uh-oh.
I did want to say one thing. You talked about availability. Well, I mean, we live in Nashville, Tennessee, where
Yeah.
not only is a waiter the songwriter, but there are fabulous players, literally.
Waiter is a guitar player too.
I mean, there are such great players in this town. It's scary, wonderfully scary. So yeah, we've been very lucky.
If you have a dinner party, you know, 3 out of 4 people are going to be musicians or songwriters.
True.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Even, you know, because we're here in Southern California and we've got maybe the greater population and maybe even greater numbers, but they're spread out all over the, you know, out an hour drive or more from each other. And you guys have that wonderful concentration where you, like you say, you just walk down the street and everybody you bump into.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Along with the great playing and engineering and all that goes into your recordings, there's also some wonderful arranging that goes on. And we're going to move now to your next album, Beautiful. No. Well,
that's right.
Yep.
Yes, it is. Beautiful Brokenness is the next album.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the title track really has some gorgeous arranging going on in there, as well as wonderful sentiment. So let's just play that now, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So this is StoweGoode, Beautiful Brokenness.
Try to hide the cracks within my soul. God forbid that you should see what no one else should know. Day by day it wore me down, this aching pain inside. I had no choice but to set free what would not be denied. Beautiful brokenness, love will always win. Beautiful brokenness, that's how gets in. From the shattered pieces of a life tattered and torn, something lovely rises up, and I have been reborn. Day by day I wake to someone I have never seen. Who'd have guessed that I could ever love someone like me? Beautiful brokenness, love will always win. Beautiful brokenness, that's how the light gets out here in the out here in the open. I have freed my soul. Somehow being broken has made me whole. Beautiful brokenness, love will always win. Beautiful brokenness, that's how the light gets
The cracks within my soul, that's how the light gets in. Okay, where did that come from?
I was at that time that song came about, I was going through a divorce, which of course brings up many emotions, and it triggered a lot of self-reflection. I went to what would you call that, experiential therapy that I did, Karen? Is that what?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so yeah, it brought up a lot of things in me, and it's a very personal song for me.
But do you remember the Leonard Cohen?
Yes, I'm sure it was inspired by the Leonard Cohen song.
Or a quote? I mean, I don't remember if it's a song or a quote, but he said that that's how the light gets in.
Yes, and also we had looked at the broken vase. What do you call it?
Oh, kintsugi.
Kintsugi.
Yes. Yeah, kintsugi is a Japanese art form where instead of throwing away a piece of pottery that ends up with a crack in it, they fill that crack with gold. And then they put it on display because they say it's the brokenness that makes it more valuable and more beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You know, if I may, there's you know, I'm a woodwind player myself, and a lot of times these wooden instruments, if they're subject to different kinds of climates and temperatures and things, they will split. And at that point, you can either throw it away or you can go through the trouble and expense of having that split repaired. And one of my sort of mentors said, actually those instruments always play better after they're repaired because that stress has been relieved.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that's
That's
what it made me bring, what brought
That's
to mind.
beautiful, Al.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a beautiful song. And,
Thank you.
and out of, as they say, out of great suffering comes great art.
Mm.
The one I want to talk about next is My Life is a Prayer. So
Good choice.
gee, thanks. They were all been good choices. So how did that come about?
Well, we were down in Florida at a were we at a pause? No, we were part of an event, a ministers conference, as I remember. And Karen and I were there. I think we were on a lunch break, so we're sitting in the restaurant eating when Reverend Jim Rosemurgy comes up to our table and very sheepishly lays down a little note in between us and says, "I'm not a songwriter. I don't know anything about songs, but just thought this might be an idea for a song." And then he leaves, and we open it and we're like, "Whoa." And we run upstairs, and 2 hours later, I mean, we're just in our hotel room crying as we wrote this song. And we cried all the way through playing it for Jim and his beautiful wife, Nancy.
They cried too, and it was,
It was-
yes, but we are very, we're so proud to call Jim a co-writer on this, because in the Unity world, I think he is the most recognized writer of books, author of books. He's quite something. Yeah, so My Life is a Prayer that God is praying. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's not talk about it because I'll cry. Let's just listen.
Okay.
My Life is a Prayer by StoweGoode.
What if a prayer is not a plea, a desperate call with tears that fall on bended knee, but breathing out and breathing in, it's God in me that lives and breathes, my trusted friend. My life is a prayer that God is praying. My thoughts are words that God is saying. My laughter is the sound of angels playing. My life is a prayer that God is praying. What if today I had the chance to move and sway? God leads the way in my life's dance. What if I knew without a doubt, no need to fear, God's right here within, without. My life is a prayer that God is praying. My thoughts are words that God is saying. My laughter is the sound of angels My life is a prayer that God is praying. My life is a prayer that God is praying. My thoughts are words that God is saying. My laughter is the sound of angels playing. My life is a prayer that God is praying. My life is a prayer that God is praying. My life is a
Yeah, tears are probably why I chose that. That happens a lot to me. But that's a beautiful one.
Thank you.
Another one off of Beautiful Brokenness. Well, I'm going to choose that, but forgive me, I'm going to digress for a moment because I don't get a chance to talk to really pro songwriters very often. So I'm going to challenge you here just a little bit. I'm going to tell you what I know that you know, but it's for the audience. There's certain things that will definitely rule out a song ever getting much chance of airplay. That includes an overly long introduction, maybe taking your own sweet time about getting to the hook of the song, and maybe not having a catchy and repetitive chorus, you know?
Mhm.
Yet those are the features of many of your songs.
Wow.
Now, as songwriters that have been commercially successful, you got a lot of credits to your name. How do you go about determining that balance between the message and the art of the song on one side and the commercial viability on the other?
Well, I will say one thing, which is, well, I think I can speak for both of us. I know I can because at different times we each gave up that spot of being a commercial songwriter in Nashville. And the reason was we didn't want to have to go in and be told, today you must write a song about cheating and drinking and, and trucks and whatever, and we just wanted to be able to write whatever, and to write bigger thoughts and about life. And so it is true, we can't help it that each of us came up in the school of commercial songwriting. And so I do think that is what makes our songs sound commercially viable. But the truth is, we have no desire
None.
to get it out, to do the, whatever it takes these days, the tap dance, which is to get it played on commercial whatever. Because been there, done that.
Right. I will say, you know, and Karen knows this, part of the reason that I left the music business was because I just felt like I was in such a box. You know, you can't express yourself the way you would like to. And the joy of working with Karen and not being in the music business, just being in the music. I mean, there's such freedom there. And yeah, I mean, like, would we like to have our songs cut and make a lot of money if that were possible? Sure, we would, but that's not why we do it. So, you know, if they want to have a long intro, they can. You know, it's like it's our music, you know, take it or leave it.
Exactly. Well, we're going to take it. And
Great.
and this next song fits that description. This is from, again, Beautiful Brokenness. This is a song called Enough.
Oh.
StoweGoode.
In this moment now, I lay all struggle down, searching for, wanting more. Now at last I'm free. These words are enough. This breath is enough. Oh, what joy to breathe the air of sweet relief. Letting go, no need to know, all will be revealed. These words are enough. These words are enough. This breath is enough. Once a veil of mystery, I close my eyes to see. Perhaps the greater plan is knowing that I am enough.
Just beautiful, just beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, Al, I am so glad you chose that song. Yeah, you know, when we wrote it, it did not have an overly long, gorgeous instrumental intro. However, it was one of those times we went in the studio and this incredible keyboard guy named Jason Webb, and you know, we just said, "Hey, I'm telling you, all the musicians come in the room, in the control room, and they hear the song for the first time, and then they get their chart, and then they go out and they play it." That's the level of that's all they know about the song. And we said to Jason, do you think you could, are you hearing anything that you could do maybe for an intro? Okay. And they pushed the record button and he took off and played that unscripted, uncharted. Oh my God, isn't it? It's amazing. It's amazing. And were we going to cut that down in any way? No. Like, this is meant to be.
Yeah. And then Karen just sang she sang the feeling out of it. Is that a phrase?
It is now.
Yes, it is now, yeah.
Sang the hell out of it.
There's one other thing in there that I want to point out that I don't know if it was in your thoughts or not. Maybe it was,
Do
but
tell.
I love, it's the ending of the song, which is perhaps the greater plan is knowing that I am enough.
Uh-huh.
And I hear a double meaning in there.
Oh.
I don't know. And maybe you meant that, but I love double meanings, because it leaves it.
What do you hear?
Well, I mean, there's what I'll consider the plain on the face one, that I am enough.
Mm-hmm.
But on the recording, you go, I am, and then there's quite a while, and then you say enough, which could be just a pregnant pause. Or it could be, perhaps the greater plan is knowing that I am, period.
Oh.
Enough.
Yeah. Wow. I love that.
It's beautiful.
It
And
is.
I'm not going to ask you to clarify it, because that eliminates the double meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say that we were inspired to write this song by the Welsh poet David White, who has a poem by that name. And we called his people and got permission to use 2 lines of his from the poem. And which lines are they, Stowe? These words are enough.
These words are enough. This
This
breath.
is enough.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Oh God, if anybody ever wants some gorgeous inspiration, look up David White reading some of his own poetry, because that Welsh accent and his words are
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, thank you for that.
Mm.
Moving on to your most recent album, Ordinary Life.
Yes.
I want to say that my sense is, and it may not be true, but just the way your lyrics lay, it feels like they were easy to write. As I said, that may not be true, but I just love, I can almost anticipate what it's going to be, but that's not disappointing in the lyrics and the rhyme schemes, because I feel like I'm participating in it. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So the one I want to talk about, because again, it's kind of funny, and I lean towards that,
Yeah.
is Holy Money.
Oh.
And that's another thing about your lyrics is, although they may not always be a story, they kind of take the listener on a journey. And this one does that. Starts out when we were in diapers, crawling on our knees. We were taught this stuff about money. And so I think I love that. It's like, yeah, I was taught that. Yeah, I was taught that too. So let's take a listen to Holy Money.
From the time we're still in diapers, crawling around on our knees, we're taught that it's the root of all evil and it don't grow on trees. All the lies, you think that it's a 4-letter word. Times are changing, haven't you heard? Now we know it's holy money, holy money. take, I circulate, just like breathing out and in. The good book says it's God's good pleasure giving these riches to me. If I ask, I will receive it. All I gotta do is believe. All this time I thought it was some great mystery. Turns out it's just love currency. I finally get it. Holy money. Holy money. Holy money. Holy money. It's coming to me. Holy money. Holy money. It's all around me. Holy money. Holy money. Holy money. Holy money. Holy money. It's coming to me. Yeah. It's coming to me. Holy money. Holy
So yeah, that's a fun one. I like it.
Thank you. And I want to give props to, there are some, as you know, there are some wonderful, talented ministers in this New Thought world. And I know we're speaking to one today, Jeannie. And but Reverend Dan Landis, who is in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg,
Harrisburg.
Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
This was the title of a workshop he was giving, Holy Money. And he was driving us around Harrisburg, and Stowe and I just went, whoa, what a great idea for a story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We ran home and wrote it.
we did. And then I just want to point out that it's my beautiful stepson, Tim Good, who created this whole track, because I think it's, there's kind of two different ways of creating music, at least in our on all these albums. And a lot of times we went into the studio with 4 or 5 other musicians, and that happened. But now, especially now, and every once in a while, everything can happen with one person creating all these different sounds. And Stowe has gotten very good at doing that, actually. And this was Tim who did that. So anyway, I'm a proud mama. My stepson is the same age as my partner in rhyme, Stowe. So how weird is that?
But you're not old enough to have birthed either one of us, so that's
No, I always say, so yes, I may be 11 years older than Stowe, but I will always and forever be 12 years younger than Jane Fonda.
Well, may we all be as active and healthy as she appears as we approach that age.
yeah.
Amen.
Well, on that Holy Money song, before we totally let it go, I'm just going to admit right here that I still have some vestigial discomfort with that phrase, and it gets repeated in there, and it really made me have to look at that. I went, wow, if for one with all that is and all those kinds of things, and we're all it's all unity and all that. Money is part of that, but just the combination of putting holy with money still grated with me just a little bit.
Oh, Al,
I'm with you, Al. I have all kinds of bad programming. I think it's bad programming from my youth, and it was a little bit of a challenge for me to write that song.
Yeah, when it's kind of primal like that, like you said, in diapers, yeah, that's some, you got to do some rooting to get that stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Can I tell? Can I tell a little personal aside real quick?
of course.
Sure.
So recently, a month ago, we were in Colorado, and my friend Stowe ran up a giant boulder when we were on a hike out in the up above Aspen, and then her trip down the boulder, it wasn't quite as smooth, and, and she ended up tearing her ACL painfully. She had to be rescued by the squad of guys that came in a mile. But you'll love this. Guess what the name of the guy who was in charge of the ambulance company that came in to rescue her? His name was Gabriel. So she was rescued by Angel Gabriel. But long story short, come back here, and Stowe has, thank God she has insurance. She's not old enough like me to have the help of Medicare. But I said, can we please do a GoFundMe for you? And because Stowe has, how did you say that? Vestigial, what did you say, Al?
Vestigial discomfort, I think.
Discomfort. I love that phrase. Well, Stowe had some vestigial discomfort about asking for help and accepting help in monetary form from the universe and people. And would you like to take it from there, Stowe? What happened?
Well, I don't know. It broke my heart. Or maybe it opened my heart, how people responded. It's still a lot for me to take, but it makes me cry. I can look at it as holy money because that's the way God works, and it can be holy.
Yeah. So there.
So I'm going to take that and try to do a segue here, because one of the things we have to do with that holy money is pass it on.
Ah.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
I love
that. Yeah, I was thinking of that too.
You're good. Good, Al.
So let's listen. Let's give it a listen so everybody knows what we're talking about. This is StoweGoode, Pass It On.
Someone picked me up. For every time my anger has been answered back with love. For every time I've weakened and someone else's faith was strong, I will pass it on. Pass it on. Pass it on. Leave a light on the frozen and the heartless, finally breaking through the ice. The fear just melts away. Even hope to stand upon. We will pass it on. Pass it on. You can't take it with you when you're gone. Can't take it with you. Pass it on. Pass it on. Make the world a better place. Leave a little love behind you. Pass it on. Pass it on. Pass it on. Pass it on. You can't take it with you when you're gone. Pass it on. Pass it on. Pass it on. Leave a little love behind you. Leave a little love behind you. Leave a little love behind you. Pass it on.
So what a catchy song. You know, you talk about the law of circulation there in a very attractive way, showing the individual both as the receiver and the giver of love in all its forms, including money. What a great sing-along anthem, perfect for services, of course, and conferences. I can see you guys doing that in all kinds of settings. Great work.
Thank you.
Where-
Thank you.
Yeah, where did that one come from?
Well, we had a writing appointment. We don't often write with other writers. We're not against it. We just don't do it a lot. But we had met a young man, or he approached us after he saw us sing, named Jackson Nance, and he's very talented. You should look him up. And so
He was 17 at the time.
17, yeah. So talented. And so Jackson was coming over, and Karen is, I love this characteristic about her, is that she always wants to be prepared. So she had come up with I think it was the whole, or at least part of the first verse or something. She had it going on. So, and then Jackson showed up, and it was actually turned out to be a long birth process for this song, though. It wasn't a no-brainer.
Right.
We rewrote it a number of times.
Yeah, which doesn't always happen. But I'm glad you picked this one too. I often forget about this song. And maybe, there's a little part of me that's like, it's the chorus, it was on purpose repetitive, because what you said before, Al, that does it not only makes songs commercial, but it makes them easy for people to catch on to and be able to sing along. And I know that much of our stuff is not that easy to sing along with.
Right.
So, and maybe I was slightly ashamed of this, that was so commercial. But I love it so much, and I love that it is easy to grab onto and sing along with.
Mm-hmm.
And commercial. Okay, I said it.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of songs where we repeat the same phrase over and over. We wrote one on I would call this our first album, but it's just me singing, but it's called Flying High. And that was all our very first songs. And we had a song on there called You Are Not Alone. And it repeats a lot. So we challenge ourselves. Every once in a while we get a bug up our skirt that says, write a song with repeating words so people can sing with you.
And because we said we don't often write with other people, it's true. But I'm wearing a shirt here, which you won't see because we're on the radio. But it says You Matter, which is one of the songs on our newest CD. And we wrote that with Karen Drucker, who is, of course, a
Big
very
fan.
fabulous, well-known, and one of Karen Drucker's great skills is repetition.
Mhm.
Because she's the queen of chants, right? She
Yes,
writes-
yes, she is. Yes, she is. Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I think we've learned a lot from writing with Karen.
yeah, yeah. In fact, she is the reason we're interviewing you, because I was interviewing her for her to do a review of her most recent album, and we were, and I think that, I don't know whether there's one of your songs that you collaborated with her on her album. I can't remember
There
now.
is.
Yeah,
Probably.
and I said, well, who are these people? And she went, oh, let me tell you, you have to talk to them. You have to talk to them.
Well, we thank her and thank you.
You're very welcome. So one of the things we've acknowledged that is true in New Thought is that we really try to overcome the little foibles and the big challenges we have in life. And this one really helped me a lot. And I think we'll listen to it first. This is StoweGoode Tweezer Song.
I love it.
Each morning I wake up. Before I put on my makeup, I tweeze a little hair or two. Without batting an eyelash, I pluck and I prune my mustache. I tweeze a little hair or two. They're growing and growing at a radical pace, and I'm in trouble. I'm mowing and mowing like weeds on my face. A sea of stubble, they move from my legs to my chin. In this charming new age, I put on my flannel PJs and tweeze a little hair or four. The truth becomes clearer in front of my lighted mirror. I tweeze a couple hundred more. They're growing and growing, it's out of control, and I can't take it. They're glowing and showing a sight to behold. For heaven's sake, it's like I'm turning into a man. We're in the elite club, the furry sorority club. We tweeze a little hair or two. And if you're bedridden, I'll help keep your secret hidden. I'll tweeze a little hair for you. Together, together, we'll keep them at bay. It's all so taxing, forever and ever. They won't go away. Have you tried waxing? It never gets better. And we say, oy vey, there's no relaxing for the rest of our plucking lives. So, tell me, what have I missed? Electrolysis. I tried it, and that made me scream. Well, how about laser beams? Yeah, maybe, because threading's just weird. Got that right. Guess we'll live with a beard.
So let's talk about how this came about. I'm sure it has nothing to do with personal experience.
Nothing. Take it, Stowe.
I don't know. This started for me probably like 15 years ago. And I used to stand in front of the mirror tweezing, and I used to sing each morning I wake up.
Before I put on
Yeah.
my makeup.
before I put on I tweet a little hair or two, but I never went any further with it. And so a few years ago, Karen and I were at a women's retreat. It was the start of the retreat. You know, there was great energy, and I don't know how it came up, but we decided to write it and spring it on the ladies. Oh my God, I've never heard so much laughing. It was hysterical.
Yeah. So this had to be one I chose because Al wasn't going to choose it.
Yeah, I
But
get it.
I was kind of sitting listening to, doing this, which for the audience, I'm rubbing my chin.
I think one of the lovely things about being a songwriter is you can write silly stuff like that yet still makes, we did have some women who heard it the first time and they were like looking around like, oh my God, you can talk about this? Oh, and you can sing about it? You can, oh, yay. And look how many people also have this situation. Yay. Yeah.
And it's our only parody that I know of.
Oh,
that's
I'm
right.
glad we got that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we always thank and apologize greatly to Burt Bacharach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it made me think of my daughter too, because she was sharing one time that her girlfriends have all made a pact that if any of them get in a situation like they're very ill and they can't do it themselves, that they'll do it for each other. And I was like, oh, that's so wonderful. That generation, because we don't talk about it.
I know.
Do this song.
I love it.
Thank you.
That's why we put that in the song too.
That's right. If you're bedridden, I'll help keep your secret hidden.
Yep.
Well, you guys have wonderful taste.
Yes.
From the superb to the ridiculous.
So to wrap up, were there any favorites that we missed? Is there one that you could name? And can you hear that buzz, or is that my computer?
It's your computer.
Oh yeah, I do hear it.
Well, I would say on our newest album, one of my favorites is the new verse we ended up writing for a very well-known existing song that was written in the 1800s. And I'll just tell you that we were in Falmouth, Massachusetts, in between gigs, and we were practicing songs for an upcoming Lions Club event, a big conference they were having. And we got a call from the guy, and he said, oh, to start the conference, we need you to sing a patriotic song. And Stowe and I looked at each other like, uh-oh, we don't have any patriotic songs. I mean, they're going to be expecting to hear something that everybody knows and can sing along with. And there we were in Falmouth, and somehow we landed on America the Beautiful. And we were playing really fun, cool chords. I can't remember ever spending like 3 or 4 hours just on this song that we love so much. Just the first verse. Because the rest of the verses are bizarre. I don't know if you guys know any of the additional verses to America the Beautiful. Here's one. Oh, beautiful for pilgrim feet, whose stern impassioned stress a thoroughfare of freedom beat across the wilderness. Huh? So we weren't going to do that. And, that was in the thick of not that our country is any less divided right now, but it was in the thick of the worst of the division. And we wrote a new second verse. And then after the fact, what did we find out, Stowe? What did we find out about Catherine Lee Bates?
Oh yeah, it was. Well, we got after we had been playing with the song for hours, we were like, "Well, who wrote this song?" So we looked up, and it was I don't remember the man's name.
Samuel Ward. He wrote the music in 1883.
Mm-hmm. And then we saw Catherine Lee Bates wrote the lyric, and guess where she was from? Falmouth, Mass.
Isn't that bizarre and wonderful?
Right where we were.
Yes, we feel like Catherine was speaking to us.
She said, here's an updated
Yeah.
version.
Anyway, that would be my pick. Is that all right with you, Stowe?
Well, I also am very fond of Morning Prayer. It's
Oh,
a very centering song.
I love morning prayer too. You guys will have to choose.
Yeah.
Well, I think because it's we're on the New Thought Media Network, and as a promo, you just did a great promo to get people to go buy your new CD.
Aha.
So we will play Morning Prayer after that great teaser for the newly revised and edited America the Beautiful, the New Thought version of America the Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay.
So here we are, StoweGoode, closing out the show with Morning Prayer.